Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm hopping on 2 minutes early as always. Welcome to The Art of Starting. This is my 6th official episode. I'm so excited. Tonight I'm talking to a good friend of mine and also someone that I really look up to, like so many of the women that I've had on this show. Her name is Lee Noto, and she is an intimacy and relationship coach. And I'm really excited to talk to her about her really unique journey, the unique work that she does, and how that work impacts her journey as an entrepreneur. So I also, again, as always, like to announce that I am doing a live fundraiser here. If you do catch us live for the Loveland Foundation, which financially supports therapy for Black women, including transgender women. So that's something that I really feel strongly about. And if you can give a little, it will go a long way. So I'm really excited to get started. And hello, if you're just coming in, our guest will be here in about 1 minute at 6 on the dot. And again, tonight we're just going to be jumping into Lee's experience as a relationship and intimacy coach and how that has affected her journey as an entrepreneur. Which I think there's so many fascinating overlaps. We're going to get into what kind of intimacy work she does for herself in order to better show up for her business, the duality of masculine and feminine energy, which is something that she looks at in her own work, and how that plays into being a businesswoman. So I'm super excited to have her join. I know that she's someone who, like, we always have the best conversation. So I know that we're just going to like dive in and we're going to go a mile a minute. As always, I keep saying as always, but as always, we try to keep this to about 30 minutes. Sorry, I almost flashed everybody. I'm going to try and keep this to 30 minutes. But I told Lee in advance, like, I'm probably going to want to talk her ear off. So maybe she'll give us 40 minutes. Last week we also ran a little long. We had 40 minutes with Bianca Crystal, and never mad at something that is just flowing and the conversation is good. And so I'm just gonna wait for Lee. And in the meantime, I said this earlier, yay, Lee is here. I said this earlier, but sorry, the show times are jumping around. But I'm trying to find time and also trying to suit my guests. So, oh my God, I can't wait to see Lee's face.
Hey,
Hi, gorgeous.
how are you?
I'm good. Look at you. You're just such a gorgeous person.
Oh, thank
I
you.
miss you so much.
Girl, I miss you too.
How are you?
Really well.
Good.
Really well.
I've been seeing you thriving, and I
Mm.
love what you and Ani are doing with your Untamed Intimacy platform. It's incredible.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a
So
journey.
inspiring. So let's just jump in.
Yeah, let's do
First
it.
of all, thank you for coming on.
My
So
pleasure.
basically, the point of this whole show is just to talk to women who inspire me about their
Mm.
journey of starting something new. And you've been on this journey for a while, but
Mm.
like so many people who are entrepreneurs, we find that it shifts as we grow. And you're someone who, I titled this episode Stepping into Your Power, because I've just watched you like just blossom and really step into your power as a person, as a businesswoman, in your partnership. And I want to talk about how all those things are overlapping, what you're doing. And I know that you have so much wisdom to share. So it's also just like for me to get to pick your mind and hear all the
Yes.
things that are going on up there.
Hell yeah. Oh, there's a lot going on up here.
Always. We have the best conversations. That's why I'm like, I said to you in the voice message, I'm like, hope you have a little more than 30 minutes because I know I'm going to want to like
Yeah.
just not stop.
For you,
So,
anything.
oh, you're so sweet. So just intro yourself. I
Hmm.
like to give all my guests a chance to just talk about what they do, who they are,
Mm.
and then we'll dive into like the questions.
Sure. So, hey everyone, my name is Lee. I am currently in Austin and I've been loving it here. I am an intimacy coach and entrepreneur and co-founder of Untamed Intimacy. And our company, our platform, and our mission is to be able to show people that intimacy and connection is something that we all have a right to. And it's something that's accessible for all of us. And we just haven't been taught how. So, our mission in this company and in my partnership is to create a space for people to get to explore themselves in a deep way and to explore their partners. And
Mm-hmm.
so, we do that through coaching, through workshops, and we've been doing some really deep work in the psychedelic assisted space, which has
Mm.
been transformative
Oh my
for
God.
for
I
me
could
on my
talk to you
personal
about that for
journey.
hours alone.
Yeah, I'll jam on it anytime. It's been a really transformational journey for us in our personal lives and then in the work that we do with clients as well, especially as it relates to being able to gently break down the walls that we've built up over time around intimacy. The psychedelic assisted space, when facilitated by someone who's qualified, can really create the space for opening for the person receiving the session.
Yes. I love that. I love that you and Ani are bringing so many of your own kind of specialties to what you do. And it makes it, I mean, I can imagine it makes it so dynamic and really like full.
Hmm.
And I love that.
Yeah, yeah, thank you.
I love it. So perfect. That was just like the most perfect intro of you. I also have to say, Lee is just the kind of person who connects the world, like connects people, connects feelings, connects emotions. Like you're just, I think of you as like a connector. So I love
Hmm,
that about you.
thank you.
So the first question is kind of a little bit more of a general one. What does intimacy mean to you? And how did you know that you were called to do this kind of work around intimacy?
Yeah, well, I should start by sharing that I had no idea what intimacy meant until I started doing this work. And like many other people, once we commit to something, once we make a decision, the universe starts lining things up for us. Lessons, breakdowns, breakthroughs, all the things. And when I first started on this journey to, in this profession, um, I had very quickly realized that I had confused intimacy and sexuality my entire life. I thought that in order to have intimacy, there needed to be some sort of sexual connection, sexual activity. And so I didn't consider my platonic friendships as intimate. I considered
Mm-hmm.
sexual relationships as intimate. And with no regrets, because I was longing for intimacy and connection, as most of us are,
Yeah.
I crossed a lot of my own boundaries many, many times, seeking something sexual, really in search of intimacy. And
Wow.
so it was through some of those experiences that I had then come to learn what intimacy is not. And it's that sort of misconception that it can only come with sexuality or sexual attraction. And
Mm-hmm.
so what I've learned, especially in this relationship with my partner Ani, is for me, intimacy is the willingness to let myself be seen in all shades across the entire spectrum, from neat and buttoned up to messy and like snot coming out of my nose.
I
And
love it.
allowing myself to be seen in that way, and being vulnerable in that way, and being willing to be present with someone else
Mm-hmm.
and being able to see them in that way. Having that connection is the most profound kind of relating I can imagine,
Mm-hmm.
and that I've ever experienced. And it can happen with a romantic partner, a parent, a coworker, a person on the street that
Yeah.
you have been speaking to for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
It can happen anytime, anywhere, and it is available to everyone.
Yeah. So powerful. I think what I'm really kind of curious about is you have clearly done so much self exploration about intimacy And do you feel that there's a crossover between how that impacts you as an entrepreneur, as a business person, and how you're relating with clients or even
Hmm.
with yourself? I'm finding in my own journey as an entrepreneur that there's so much internal dialogue that I'm someone who deals with anxiety. I have internal dialogue all the time, but it's
Yeah.
another level of internal dialogue. So like, how has that morphed your conversation with yourself now that you're working with your romantic partner? Like, where, I'm just so curious about the places that this overlaps.
It overlaps everywhere, every single place. I'm a firm believer that if this were the one thing we addressed as humans, our relationship to self, intimacy with self, then our entire lives would change. Like if that was the one thing we ever looked at, worked on, explored for the rest of our lives, we would find that intimacy is interwoven into everything. What is our intimate relationship with food, with
Yeah.
substances, with sex, with money, with work, with
Yes.
other people? And so intimacy is everywhere. It has the potential to be everywhere if we allow that kind of energy into our lives. And so as I have become more naked to myself and allowed Ani to see me in some very deep and sometimes very profound, sometimes very uncomfortable, sometimes very agitating ways, I have learned so much. It has skyrocketed every area of my life, my
Mm-hmm.
business, my relationships, because there's just an ability to cut through the bullshit and to see the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And when we can do that, like, how we do one thing is how we do everything. And so once we can find that place within ourselves in one area, it's just a matter of overlaying that and saying, okay, I've created intimacy with my partner. How
Yeah.
can I do that more with my relationship to money or food or work?
Do you think that that kind of like willingness to be vulnerable has, again, helped you be more willing to take risks as a business person, more willing
Hmm.
to kind of put things out on the line that you might not have before, kind of just putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, right?
Yes, I will say yes, I have taken more calculated risks because of my ability to be vulnerable. Because when I see myself in a space of discomfort or great excitement, even about a new opportunity, as I let myself express those things, whether it's by myself or to someone else, I get to really gut check
Mm-hmm.
that that option. And
Yeah.
I've many times been very excited about things that didn't pan out, and I've many times been a little on the fence about things that ended up being great opportunities, but I was
Mm-hmm.
able to see that because of my ability or the skill that I've honed over time in being transparent about my feelings about something.
Mm. Interesting. Yeah, I think that ability to communicate is so important, and like communicate without fear, because I'm finding like, even for me, for example, there was a company that reached out to me about an influencer opportunity and it didn't feel
Mm,
right for me. And there was that like tug of like, how am I going to say this without feeling like I'm letting them down, or is this the right thing? And there was so much like fear and things in there, and even that is kind of like, it is a type of intimacy, right? To be able to
yeah,
communicate with honesty but also feel comfortable, like, okay, I know that I'm checking, like you said, a gut check. I've made this
yeah,
decision. I'm not afraid to like put this into the world.
yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. And I've found that when I have built the courage over time to be transparent and communicative about what's really happening for me, that is such a deep level of intimacy because there is no trying to avoid, hey, here's what's so for me. This doesn't feel like a good fit, and here's why. And as we open one door of, hey, maybe this doesn't feel like a good fit, or maybe I have these questions,
Mhm.
then all of a sudden the next bit of information that we're meant to have access to reveals itself.
Mhm.
But when we're not willing to practice that level of vulnerability with ourselves and with others, then there's a ceiling at how deep things can get.
Wow. Yes, I feel that. And I feel that that also kind of dictates how far you can go in your business.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I know that, we've talked a lot about just attracting things that you want, right? And we've talked about that with love, with business. And I think that there's there's so much to be said about where fear and intimacy overlap. And I'm wondering, like, what kind
Mm.
of work have you done over the years? I know that you've gone down different paths as an entrepreneur. Like, I remember when we
Yeah.
met and you were considering, IAN. What kind
Yeah.
of work have you done that's allowed you to be more empowered and just like more confident in yourself? I know that obviously time is a big one, and just like the more that you do anything, but you're someone who has worked a lot on yourself. So just to like speak to some of that work.
Yeah. So definitely a lot of inner work. Wow, there's so many things. Let's start with the inside journey because all of this is an inside job.
Yes.
Like at the end of the day, it really is. And we can do anything in the world outside of us, but if it's not truly matched with what's happening inside, then the false things fall away.
Oh, I love that.
So the inside job, really the one thing is just practicing radical self-acceptance.
Mm,
And
wow.
it's a very simple thing. It's not, what I find is like the universe's deepest truths are always very simple. It's not complex. Like none of this is complicated. I mean, it's complex. It's not complicated.
Yeah.
Um, so that inner journey, and again, this one thing, this self-love thing that is talked about so often, yet highly misunderstood, is the one thing. And so I have approached that journey from many different angles, be it meditation, yoga, affirmations, visualizations, journaling. I mean, there are so many ways to approach it. Um, and I've tried on a lot of different modalities, including various forms of energy healing as a practitioner, as a recipient, body work, um, and even doing work as a body worker, especially working with people's sexual energy has been a huge part of my growth because on my path there was a lot of misunderstanding that I held around my sexuality for many years, and we're just not taught these things. And
Mm-hmm.
so doing that kind of work and holding space for others was a one of the most pivotal parts of my journey. Um, and so all of that sort of work culminated into me starting to get a better understanding of who I am in truth outside of my own stories and my parents' stories and society's stories. Um, so I'd say, everything's an inside job. Everything comes from within. Our relationships out in the world are a reflection of our relationship with ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's something that Ani would always say to me is like, you don't have to worry about that relationship out there with your mom or with whomever. Like, get it right in here, and
Yes.
everything else will fall into place. There's only one thing to do.
Yeah. Yes, 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 yes. I don't know if I need to connect you or just like pass on the work of this woman, Allison Gilbert. And
Mm,
I shared on my Instagram story about her because she is someone who helps people grow their business. And what she kind of speaks to is the emotional side of being an entrepreneur. And that's something that I think of
mm,
very much with you too, because what you're saying, people think of entrepreneurship so much from a business perspective, but in some ways, like you're saying, it is so much it's so emotional. Like you
oh my
can't take
God.
out the self from your business because it's
Yeah.
a lot now that so many of us are solopreneurs too. Like it's you, it's coming from you. And I think that that element of self-work is often not talked about. And that's why I
Yeah.
really wanted to highlight that as something that I think you've done, that from as an outsider I can see how that's really like strengthen you as a business person, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just think those conversations are so important.
They are. And like, even if we're going to a corporate job, we are still ourselves. We don't rid ourselves of
Yeah.
ourselves when we go into work. Some
Yeah.
people compartmentalize fairly well. Um, Not my cup of tea. Like I would bring everything with me to
Me
work as
neither.
well. But Emotions are a huge part of this, especially on the entrepreneurial journey. It's a fucking roller coaster. Like any sort of spiritual development that you ever wish to receive, you will receive on the journey of being an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And especially as women, something that came up for me as you were saying that was, how do we work with our physiology even on the entrepreneurial journey?
Oh my
Like
God.
we experience cycles every single month. And so how do we work with our body to optimize for
Mm,
what we're good at a certain point in our cycle? Because I can tell you what, I do not want to be neck high in work when I'm on my period. Like I don't. And thank goodness I have an amazing partner who really, really understands this, but we will optimize for my period so that when that comes around, my load is way lighter
yeah.
and he's taking on more so that we can help balance, or he's resting with me and we just decide to rest.
Yeah.
And so really optimizing for what our body needs and listening when we need rest and nourishment and movement and sunlight and all the things.
Oh my God. I literally got chills as you were saying that. Um, yeah, I mean, I I had an experience where I was on my period and I got a new period cup. My thing dropped out for a second. Hold on. I want to make sure it's plugged in and charging. So anyway, I'm trying to figure out this new period cup, right? And I'm like losing it. I'm having a meltdown. And I'm like, men don't have to deal with this. How do our, women as entrepreneurs, we have so much more to deal with. And I was like literally having a moment. And I never thought to like have my business work in sync with my cycle because
Yes.
yeah, your brain works differently, your emotions are all over the place. Like it's just, yeah, it's radically important to how we show up to everything.
Yeah, if you haven't read Wild Power, I recommend it to everyone, men included, um, because that book transformed my life as a female entrepreneur,
I'm
as
going
just a
to
woman in
have
the world in general. But it is the spiritual practice of menstruation, like how we create a ritual and a practice around all of our cycles. And it's mapped to the seasons, which is, we're just like magical beings,
Oh
women.
my God,
We are.
100%, 100%. And the more you connect to it, the more magical that you find it is,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
I've definitely experienced in my own life.
yeah, for sure.
So that brings me to something else that I got really excited to talk to you about, which is also something that I heard Allison Gilbert speak about, which is the difference between the masculine economy and feminine economy. And I know that
Mm,
you work with like those two energies.
yeah,
So, what do you have any thoughts on that, right? Like how you can play with those two energies and kind of like archetypes in your
yeah.
business or as a business person.
Okay, I have so many thoughts on this because um I've given so much thought to this. It is one of the biggest things that crosses my mind every day. And so, for those listening, masculine and feminine is not referring to gender identification.
Yes.
This has nothing to do with gender. This is attributes or qualities that we all possess. So, we all have masculine and feminine energy,
Yeah.
no matter how we identify. So, when we think of masculine energy, these are qualities like being directive, penetrative, being action oriented, being direct, ever present,
Mm,
um, linear, organized, analytical. These are
mm,
masculine traits. Now,
yes.
as it turns out, a lot of men do possess these traits. Not all men. There are many men with a lot of feminine energy.
Yeah.
Um, and you might find that a woman in finance has a lot of masculine energy because
Yes.
her work requires her to be analytical and organized. Now, on the feminine side of things, you find that this energy is more free flowing, nonlinear, um, more emotional. And I mean that in just an objective way.
Yeah.
It's also receptive, it's creative. Um, it
Respect.
is like, yeah, receptive is one.
Love that.
And it kind of plays out in physiology too, with penetration and receiving as
Mm,
man and woman.
yes.
Um, but this energy is of rest, replenishment, nourishment, Now, one of the misconceptions about feminine energy is people are afraid to allow their feminine energy in because they think they're just gonna sit on the couch and do nothing all day. That is not that is not conscious feminine energy.
Yeah, I've been there.
That might be shadow feminine, like the complacency or
Yeah.
the lack of purpose. But when feminine energy is truly aligned and balanced, the feminine takes inspired action. So the feminine isn't not doing anything. The feminine's doing what comes through intuition, what there is a clear message about. Whereas when we look at a fractured masculine energy or masculine that's in the shadow, as in not conscious, but
Mm,
is operating out of overdrive, we're looking at a lot of like frenetic energy. And it might be very directive, but it's like, throwing spaghetti at a wall and just seeing what sticks.
mm,
And that can be, great when you're in an entrepreneurial startup, just throwing ideas out there. And
yeah.
that can also be a part of the creative energy.
Yeah.
But when the masculine's in overdrive, there's a lot of burnout because
Yes.
hypermasculine activity is um, always about the going, doing, achieving. And when it really becomes, when it really gets into the shadow realm, it's about conquering, demolishing, owning. And that's what we're seeing in the world. And
Mm,
so within ourselves, we have the ability to balance masculine and feminine. And then we see how masculine and feminine is playing out in society and as a collective. And we've been in hypermasculine overdrive for a very long time. And we also look at how that plays out with the difference in treatment between men and women typically,
yeah.
because there hasn't been the embrace and welcoming of feminine energy.
Yeah.
And so, as entrepreneurs, when we're I think most entrepreneurs want to live an optimized life. It's
Mm,
probably one of the reasons why they went on this journey because they didn't want to
yeah.
live by someone else's rules. They
Yes.
have a really great idea, they want to have impact, and we're, sometimes we hustle and we, work our asses off, especially in the beginning. And it's super, super important if we want longevity in our businesses, we have to find balance between our masculine and feminine. And that means, yes, absolutely, being direct, being action oriented, setting goals and accomplishing them. It also means allowing creative energy in, allowing spaciousness for
Mm,
new ideas to form, allowing for rest and replenishment,
yeah.
because we can't constantly drive ourselves into the ground. So having an awareness of masculine and feminine dynamics, I think, should be a part of business school. For those on
Yeah.
the entrepreneurial track,
My
like
God. Yes.
it should be required learning because this is one of the secrets that most people don't know about.
Yes. 100%. And even like you were saying, like it sounds like you and Ani have done a lot of work between the two of you individually and also balancing with each other in tandem.
Yeah. Oh, Ani and I have done an incredible amount of work. And girl, let me tell you, like when COVID popped off, it was like being in a vacuum. Like I think as many people experienced, the first wave of COVID was like an amplification portal. It amplified
Yes.
everything. Whatever was there got magnified, and the things that were under the surface got pushed up. And so we had a couple of instances throughout the past 5 or 6 months where things got super intense.
Mm,
And there were some moments where I didn't know if we were going to make it out on the other side as a couple. Like,
mm,
there were definitely moments of like, shit, I don't know if this is going to work. This is too
yeah.
much.
Yeah.
And as we made it out on the other side, especially when we decided to start Untamed Intimacy together, as soon as we made that decision, like I said in the beginning, the universe starts to align stuff for us when we choose something.
Yeah.
We entered into like a 5 day saga that we now lovingly refer to as the 5 day war, where like nonstop, like it was intense. And we're both Scorpios, so we're like we both
Oh,
had our stingers out,
yep.
and
I
five
didn't know that.
days, yeah, 5 days nonstop of this. I had no idea what was going to happen. I thought I was at like my end. And when we made it out on the other side, it was a I I had come to realize that it was a deep initiation
Mm,
because we have embarked on this journey together. We have decided in the world that we are going to be working together and supporting couples in
yeah,
a very high level way. And
huge.
the universe must have thought like, all right, you guys need to have a little more experience in this way, and then you can go.
I mean, that kind of brings me to I what you were talking about and using like psychedelics to guide people, right? It's kind of like you end up in these circumstances that teach you so much. Um, it makes me think of like well, this is like kind of a sidetrack, but I once read a quote somewhere like, we become the teachers that we needed, right? So it's like the universe gives us the
Mm,
lessons that we need at the moments that we need them, but we're too blind to see them or to know or to
yeah.
digest.
Yeah, it's true. That's an interesting mindset shift that when I remember to try that on for size, it serves me incredibly, which is one, um, shifting out of why is this happening to me to how is this happening for me?
That's
As
huge.
especially when we're being served with challenging lessons in relationships, in business, wherever, like, how is this happening for me? What is the lesson here that I can learn? What is the gift that could appear on the other side? And
Mm.
that's a big part of where faith comes in, which is now that Ani and I have had more than enough experience in our relationship, when conflict and tension arises, I can almost always find myself in the place of, all right, this may not feel very good right now. I know this is happening to show me something. What might this be showing me? And if
Mm.
I can find myself in that place before we're even out on the other side, it I respond from a different place.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that those kind of mindset shifts are also so, so important in business. And
Yeah.
I read a really interesting article, which was basically about like fixed mindset versus growth mindset. And, just kind of being willing to constantly be changing and shifting and growing. And it's harder than it sounds. I
Yes.
applaud you guys in the way that you show up for your relationship and for your business.
Thank
Because
you.
I know that you guys like put in the work.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
it's so cool to see couples doing that. Like it's
Mm.
inspiring, really.
Yeah, it's Ani has like pushed me. He really has. This is like another mindset shift. For a number of months in our relationship, it was very challenging for me to accept that he was here to teach me anything because he was my partner. So I'm like, "Oh, you have to be my partner. You can't also be my teacher." And, if I wanted a teacher, I'd go find a teacher. And I remember one night we were in our own psychedelic journey, our own personal experience. And for like an hour straight, he professed to me. He said, Lee, I want you to know that I'm here to serve you in a very, very deep way. And a part of
Mm,
the way that I serve you is by teaching you the things that I've already learned.
mm,
And a part of the way that you serve me is by doing the same. But if you would allow me to, I would love to serve you in that way, but it's going to require that you surrender.
mm,
And I was so touched because I'm like, what if I could actually surrender in the teaching moments and not fight back to
mm.
be right or to not be
Yeah.
wrong or to try and one up him, which can sometimes be a first instinct.
Yeah.
Um, but what if I could surrender to the fact that something's here to grow me?
Mm,
And the moments when I remember to do that, like the growth is exponential, the conflict dissipates in minutes, and it creates deeper intimacy, even on the other side of conflict.
wow. I got chills while you were saying that. I feel like you guys have such a gift of communication and words, and that's like something
Mm.
that it really goes a long way.
Yeah, it wasn't always that way. I will say
Mm,
that. Like we've both, we've both known ourselves to be great speakers and communicators, but when push comes to shove and shit gets hard, like the words and the all of the communication formats
Yep.
go out the window.
Oh yeah.
And we've had to practice a lot with communication. I've had to practice a lot with empathy, compassion, presence.
Mm.
This relationship has grown me tremendously in that way.
Mm. That leads me perfectly to, I always like to kind of at the end of the show focus on, I listened to your podcast and you did the same thing, specific tools and resources to share with people, because of course
Yeah.
I mean, you've said so many things that are great takeaways. Specific tools or resources that you've kind of come to through your years, becoming an entrepreneur, being an entrepreneur, becoming who you are now, the version of that you are now, or maybe just, I always hate saying like tools or resources because it's even more just like advice.
Yeah.
Um, things you've learned along the way that are like gems, like what Ani wanted to do for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. The first thing that came up for me as you said that, I'm a huge fan of tools and resources and templates and formats that can allow the path to feel more accessible to someone. Um, what's beyond that is one, just holding the belief that there's nothing about ourselves that we have to fix. There's nothing wrong with who we are. There's nothing wrong with our preferences, our insecurities, our fears, what we feel jealous about. Like, sure, we may want to make shifts, but there's nothing wrong with us. We are inherently whole and well and complete. And we don't have to do anything to earn those things. And, sometimes it's hard for me to believe those things about myself. I know that that's the truth, though. And so holding a space for that is one. Two, in any way that people can, allowing a space to be with themselves is one of the most profound experiences ever. So even beyond the communication formats and the tools and the books, because I could recommend a million of them, um, taking a few minutes every day to just be with yourself. No technology, no like, documents, not even a book, like nothing. And it's fascinating because a lot of us have a very hard time doing it for like more than a few minutes. But when we meet our edge and when we just pass it a little bit, there's always something really juicy there for us. A breakthrough, a thought, a memory, a realization, like a deep connection to a knowing that we have that we didn't recognize because we're always zooming around, going to work and talking to this person and that person. And so, it's my belief that when we can allow ourselves that space, we'll need way less tools. We'll need way less resources and input from other people outside of us because we connect back to our inner wisdom, which
Yeah.
we all have, like epic amounts of it. It's like ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so being with ourselves I mean, you don't have to spend any money. You don't have to go do a workshop. You don't have to take a class. I don't care who you are. Like, I don't care what level you think you're at. Give yourselves a few minutes with yourself every day and like watch and be surprised at the insight and wisdom that you have within you. And that's what I would say to anyone. And I'm a practitioner of tools and resources, but that's like nobody
Yeah.
needs anything. And if you
Yeah.
want to elect into something because you feel like it would enhance your life, amazing.
Yeah.
May it be an empowered choice. But all too often, and I say this from personal experience myself, I have found myself chasing one thing after the next, one
Yeah.
modality, a book, a podcast, sometimes because there was a hunger for knowledge and to learn, which is beautiful, and other times because I thought I was missing something, that I wasn't enough, I didn't know enough. And that's the sort of, paradox about all of this is that's just not true for anyone.
That's so powerful. I can't even tell you. Like, I think in the you're a coach, right? So again, that work is so valuable, and something that I keep seeing pop up in my own journey is like the investment in a coach is huge, but the investment is an investment in yourself. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
what you said, that inner work is always first, and having that second to just really connect with yourself. Why are you doing this, right? Why are you getting up and doing this work that you're doing? Why do you want to do it? And I think that was something that really made me want to start this show, is like getting to that
Mm,
deeper, like why are you doing this? And for me, in a way, this show feels like a departure. It's not photography and it's not food, right? Those are the two ways
yeah.
I'm trying to make money. But this show is like, I do this because I love people. I love connecting with people, sharing wisdom. So it all ties in, and I trust my gut, and here I am.
Girl, let me acknowledge you for that because I've seen you pop up on IG Live and I'm like, yes, like she's doing it. I remember when we first met, when you were at your last job and like the journey you've been on in the few years that I've known you in relationship, in work, in your life has been incredible to watch. And
Thank you.
the courage and persistence and like just heart that it takes to constantly put yourself out there in this way and to share messages that are meaningful for you and to invite people into that is fucking rad. So
Thank
keep doing
you.
it.
That means so much from you. You're just one of my favorite people.
Oh,
I
I
just
love you.
I'm not gonna get emotional. Okay. I think that was the only other thing that I like really wanted to ask you. Um, give like a shout out to the work that you're doing, where people can find you. When I post this on my IGTV, I'll tag you, I'll tag Untamed Intimacy so people can find you there. But just to like give you a chance to promote yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So our Instagram is at untamed underscore intimacy. That's where you can find us. My personal one is at linoto underscore. Um, I do want to make a plug. Ani and I are about to launch a group program for couples
Oh
all around intimacy.
my God.
And oh my God, we're so excited for it. Um, we are taking just years and years of lived experience working with clients, massive amounts of research, both in the world of intimacy, psychedelics, neuroscience, psychology, tantra, and we are bringing it all together in one juicy offer for
Oh
couples. And
my
it's going to
God.
be, yeah, it's going to be super, super delicious. And it's a 12-week group coaching program. And we'll probably kick it off in beginning to mid-August. We're
Okay.
really excited about it. We'll be able to provide some really deep support for the couples who are traveling in the program. And it's always nice as a couple to be able to see that you're not the only one that's going through shit. We
Yeah, yeah,
sometimes think we're like uniquely fucked up, but we're not. Like
yeah.
everyone's just as fucked up as we are, you know?
I
And
love
like
that you just said that.
other people are going through shit
Uh,
too. And when we come together and there's a safe and vulnerable space to share, like, hey, this is what happened today. And
yeah,
someone else is like, oh my God, that's happening for me too. There's a deep intimacy that's created amongst couples.
yeah.
And there is an ability to heal in a different way in community. So
Oh my
that's
God.
that's what we're setting out to do here. So if you want information about that, it is go.untamedintimacy.com.
Perfect. Is there like how many couples are you going to be working with? Are you capping it? Like, how are you handling that?
Um, so we're not capping it. We are really like looking to manifest just the right couples.
Yes.
So I'll speak to this. Like this is for you if you're in a relationship and one, either you've been experiencing sort of incessant challenge or repeated challenge, be it through conflict, sexual desire, and congruence in sexuality,
Mm-hmm.
um, and or you're looking to really optimize your relationship. You know that there's something else beyond the constant challenge and conflict. You
Yeah.
don't want to break up. You want to like really transform things. And you're willing to see yourself deeply. You're willing to hold that space for your partner. You're willing to do the work and the play because there's going to be a lot of pleasure and play included in the content that we're teaching. So that those are the kinds of couples that are ideal for this program.
I love that. I'm so excited for you guys, and I can't wait to like keep watching everything that you're doing. And now I'm following your podcast so I can listen to your podcast.
Thank
You
you
have a
so
great
much.
podcast voice.
Thank you. Thank
So
you. Thank
soothing.
you. I
I was
appreciate
listening.
that.
I'm on vacation. I'm in my family's house, and I was listening to it, and my goddad was like, "That woman's voice is amazing," talking about you, and I was like, "Oh, so soothing."
Oh, well, tell him thank you. I appreciate it.
I will.
Yeah.
Thank you so, so much for coming on and talking
Mm.
to me. I wish we had heaps more time, and I hope I get to see you in real life soon.
Yes, please. Girl, let me know when y'all are coming down to Austin.
I know. I need to come. It looks divine.
It's great.
I love it. Thank you so, so, so much, Lee. I'm thinking it's Friday. It's not. It's Thursday, but happy
Almost.
almost weekend.
Happy almost weekend.
And
I
say
love you
hi to
so much,
Ani for
Nicole.
me.
I
You too.
will. I will. I love
Bye.
you.
Love you
Bye.
too.